And. But I can sign with it. You know, it's good practice. So, you know.
That's what your daughter said. That's what Mary said too.
Well, Mary really knows a lot more because her family stuff. And she was a nurse. Texas. So she had to learn more. And I know more sign English. The way it happened.
This is a small crowd, so it's pretty informal. Our town hall is, we're the statewide independent living council. We don't provide services, but what we do is we create a state plan that helps inform the entire state, including legislators and state agencies, about what's working, what's not working, and what's needed as far as services go. So, this town hall is actually to collect information so we can start the process of writing our next state plan, which we call the SPIL, the State Plan for Independent Living. So, our current SPIL, we have 3 really broad goals, but under those goals, we create specific plans on what we can do to try and make sure that the needs of the community that you tell us about are addressed. So it's really important to get everyone's input because the federal government funds us to do this. So it's really your funding because it's your voice that we want to express to the rest of the state. It's not my voice, it's not Centers for Independent Living, it's not any specific organization. It's the community, it's people. People need things that, and everybody has different needs in different communities. So that's why we're reaching out to these individual communities, and we're trying to reach out as much as possible. And Dee made the recommendation that we come here, and I thought it was a great idea. So I guess I'll open this up so you guys can start telling me what the needs of this community are for the disability community.
Anybody knows what's needed in this community for each other contact? That's amazing. And what I see.
So what I'm hearing is you would like to see in our next state plan something about maintaining the presence in Elko, so that we can continue to reach out to this community and make sure your needs are met. Right. I don't supply any gold. Yeah, I mean, we have a little bit of funding and do assist local center for independent council because we know they're working. We know that she's reaching out to the communities like this. Now, I don't know if you also know that there are 2 other centers for independent living because Northern Nevada Center for Independent Living used to have a presence out here. I believe someone still technically comes out here once in a while, but I don't know how often because they're not here right now to tell us, so I can't speak for them. But I know that when they left the whole in services here. So the Centers for Independent Living are required to do 5 services: transition, information and referral, probably not the no, it's yeah, it's on our website, but never remember either. See at counseling and independent living skills training. Thank you. Yes. So I've mandated services and centers for independent living are supposed to provide that. So you actually have two centers that you could call out to and ask for those services from, RCIO and NCIO. But, you know, you can, of course, you guys have two options, right? Because sometimes two is necessary because one might do one thing better than another. But there still might be areas that aren't being addressed. And so that's really what we need to know about. Because when we create our state plan, the Centers for Independent Living, when we have planned with us, and we all plan together and we all require to agree to it. So if you guys say you need something, we put it in that plan, they're agreeing to provide that service, or at least advocate for it. So, and there's a lot of issues with that, sometimes with financial ability, because the centers aren't given that much money and the council's given that much money to give to the centers, so we don't have a lot to work with. But if what we are really good at is letting legislators know, letting the community policymakers know this is what's needed and this is what's not working and we need to change this, and we explain why, and we explain where we heard this information from you guys, and then they listen. Usually, sometimes we have to say it a few times.
I'm sorry, can we interrupt real quickly? We are not able to hear the audience members and their comments at all.
I know I'm having a hard time too, but that's okay because I'm moving up and then I'll repeat what he says back and what I hear. So
Perfect. That would be wonderful.
I understand.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, and your voice is really great. It's really quiet.
That's bad.
Yeah. But that's,
So what I'm hearing you say is that everybody knows to go to the senior centers because they provide most of the services. And honestly, the senior centers, I know we've been complaining a lot as a disability organization to aging and disability services that they're awarding all their grants to the senior centers, and people with disabilities who aren't seniors don't know to go there. Would you think if I have a disability and I'm under 60 or under 65, I wouldn't think to go to the senior center for services? So this is something that we've also been.
and here it is, he's on the school board, he's a Boy Scout leader. He knows a lot of people like me in town. We direct them over to the senior center. If they can't do that, I have Fish. If Fish can't do it, then I have other resources all around to go and make phone calls. I mean, there's nothing for people here in an office going to help, please.
But then another thing about that is that the Centers for Independent Living are working under the independent living philosophy. So what that means is because senior centers don't do that. Senior centers work on sometimes person-centered, which is good, but independent living is self-direction. And self-direction is really important for people with disabilities because we want to tell people what we need, not have someone tell us what we need. Because sometimes what they tell us we need is what we need, right? It's what they think we need. And so we're just like everyone else, we want to have that agency. We want to be able to speak for ourselves and say, what are my choices? And how come you're saying this would be best for me rather than this, when I like this, right? We want to be able to have those conversations and make an independent living plan so that we can accomplish our own personal goals and not the goals of a social worker or a caseworker somewhere, right? So that's why independent living is so important. And if you go through the Centers for Independent Living, you can create an independent living plan. You don't have to, but it gives you that opportunity to do that if you want to. And that's different than a lot of social services programs, right? Which I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Social service programs are there for a reason and we need them. But we should be able to decide which ones we want. So, you know, and if there is one out there that's right for us, we should be able to also say, none of those work for me, I want something else, and figure out what that is and make it work for us.
Principles with each individual
Yes.
situation. And a lot of people don't even know what they need when they're having this stuff.
Right, and the Centers for Independent Living have all the resources, or at least they know most of them in the area. Like you said, she knows it all, right? Like she's the go-to. So, you know, they're the ones who can help you figure out, you know, what's gonna be best for you and you can decide that. You know, they're not gonna tell you, oh, you should do this and I'm gonna make you do that, or you have to apply for this. They're gonna say, here's what's available, what would you like to do?
And I just heard from my one young lady and gentleman that I've been trying to help, which they'll become clients. And mom, this is what's going on, can you help me? And we'll come in and see you fill out the paperwork and then I'll get them started, because before I did that, we needed a house for our apartment for her. Guess what? Mom and I went, we scoured this town, we found one. She can't hold a job because of behavior, but we've got her in-laws have got her working with them now and she's thrilled. Convinced brother to take brother on as a co-partner and it's working fabulous. But I had to be the one that intervene with everybody.
Yeah.
And I see that, and it's not just Elko. I have teachers in Battle Mountain that would love this center to be able to help them too, because I have more students that are going to graduate this year that need transition planning. Moms called me and said, help.
So I'm hearing all of those services that Centers for Independent Living provide are needed more than what's available here. So I'm hearing that Elko really needs more resources. We need more independent living providers so that people know about what services are available.
We actually need more houses. We don't have enough houses for everybody.
That's a huge one too.
And yes, you know, it's me, myself, and I. And this one knows that I run in circles. And I don't stop until I get that job done. If it's something that has to be done, it'll be done. He knows that too.
Yeah.
And if it's just helping them get information to them and get them over here so they can possibly do that, and things like that.
Okay, so what I'm hearing from you guys right now is not only do you need more independent living services, including, you know, help with housing, transportation, all the things that independent living services help you with, but you need a bigger presence out here to help with it, because one person obviously is not part-time, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's something bigger that Elko needs more.
And
More funding, more resources
And these-
to Elko.
the guys from Reno don't know Elko. I've lived in Elko for over 40 years.
It's a long way back.
And it is, and I know that. Battle Mountain is an hour away, 70 miles. I know the special ed teachers because I live here. And that's why I said, the kids that know I was a special ed teacher and the teacher, they call me because they know that I can use it to solve a problem.
I'm also hearing that people may not understand what independent living is and what the centers are. And how they differ from a senior center or a social service agency. And so that may be something that we should put in our next state plan, is more education for the community. Right?
Is there somewhere I can ask a clarifying question?
Absolutely.
Is independent living, does that encompass the, like the Humboldt Human Development Homes that we have here that have adults that live in that? Does that encompass Humboldt Human Development Homes or that kind of those partner? Is that in the independent living umbrella? So, yeah, I know, thank you.
Independent living does cover pretty much any needs that the disability community has. But independent living in itself is a philosophy, and it starts with self-direction. So you go into a center for independent living, and independent living can include housing, it can include transportation. What it includes is all of your needs, first, your needs are what's important. Your needs and how you would like to see them, your goals accomplished, right? Like if you have barriers to get to the grocery store, what are those barriers? Are they transportation? Or is it because you can't get out of your front door because you're in a wheelchair and there's a staff? You know what I mean? Like, what are the things? And then you start with that and you figure out what the best services would be to solve those barriers and to remove them. Thank you for that privilege. Yeah. Go ahead.
I don't know if this fits, but I'm gonna give an example. These are real life examples of disabled people. One of them was my nephew. And he was getting a wound care done at the Hawaii hospital. That's where he lives, 100 miles north of us. And so they ended up sending us to the emergency room, and he got admitted. And then so afterwards, they want him to live or be in Elko. And so he can go to the hospital every day for his IVs and his wound care. And so there's no, you couldn't stay with family because of federal guidelines that say, if you live in a senior house, you're only supposed to have, yourself in there. And then, you gotta get the okay from housing, and housing said, no, he can't stay there. So family's out of the question. So, I really don't know what happened to him, because he's not responding to me, and I don't have his direct phone number. But, I mean, I told him, you could stay at Western Inn, and he was like, okay, I'm gonna get discharged today, that was last Thursday. And then I'm gonna go stay with my friends. So what kind of services is just like, there's no family that can help them, doesn't have a transportation to go back and forth to a white detail every day.
So I think what I'm hearing you say, and interpreting that into we're asking for put it into our next plan for is possibly that when you have when a person has more than one disability or more than one service or program, that sometimes one isn't possible unless they lose another, and there's barriers between them, right? Like there's like people living, kind of like how people are afraid to get a full-time job because they might lose their, so they're gonna be really better, and they don't know how much they can work or if they can work a lot of the time.
I think
those kinds of
another portion of this case would be that he lived in Elko County, but not in the town of Elko. The medical service, so in his own home, he had everything local that he needed. But the further medical care he needs is not available in his own home.
right.
It's still in Elko County. So to reach his service that he needs, that's only provided at Elko Hospital, he's got to stay somewhere locally. His family would be willing, however, it would disrupt them for their services. So there's no temporary disabled housing that's accommodating to his disability. So for instance, if he could stay at the Western, he may not be able to get in and out or access the bathroom down the hall. Because they don't have a bathroom. Do you know what the Western is? No, not you. Do you know?
Oh, no, sorry. They're gonna go out, and I will make sure that I take them.
Okay.
The Western Inn is not a good place.
It's not.
It's
No, it's not a part of, I didn't say that. It's an apartment. It's something that's not Most of
It's not gonna be ideal, but he's gonna be in Elko.
They'll have a roof and
Yes,
that'll be.
transportation to get to the hospital.
But he said should have a way that have food and. Oh, yeah.
With her mind.
Very difficult.
So this is,
Right.
this is what independent living from the centers, they come in and they help you with one-on-one. They say, okay, that's one option, but it's not ideal because of all these other various causes, right? What other options might there be? And if it's not,
The shelter can't take him because.
No.
Like all the bears. You have to stay out from 7 AM to 7 PM.
People, they said he could stay there.
but if we ask him,
Well, that's what I'm saying, what would he like?
Yeah.
So I think that the what, besides getting into all the details of this one particular case, like you're saying, is this is the type of thing that the center would address. The big picture is lack of temporary
Yeah.
disabled services for somebody who still lives in Elko County, but not in town.
well, and that could mean transportation.
Yeah.
Or it could mean home health care. That's something to travel.
But here's the,
Or
here's
there's
the thing,
insurance.
we need a place, a hotel or something that these guys can go in.
Or transportation.
There are what I'm saying is there
Right,
may be
you said multiple
solutions.
routes to.
Yeah.
And every individual, if that's your situation, you can tell me what you prefer. But I have a really hard time, like, when someone speaks for everybody. right?
Absolutely.
But I understand what you're saying. And I do see the barrier and I'm trying to figure out how we could address that in our state plan.
Because there's
Your
no
perspective
of
of what, you know, we're all saying he could stay in a motel, he could stay with his aunt, stop. He could stay with whatever, he could get a ride, he could help him, we're all trying to solve the problem for him. What you're trying to say is, we need the center to speak with him and find out what he wants. And then get him how to get that situation that he wants.
Yes.
Thank you.
And whatever we can do to help make that happen and make that more available to him before it becomes where everybody in the community is trying to help him. You know, that's what we're trying to accomplish. And if we could change a policy or a law, or if we could get a grassroots movement started in Elko County, or whatever we have to do, we can put some kind of an action plan in our state plan. We just have to know what the best course of action would be in that regard. So what do you think that would be?
I'm having a really hard time not just thinking of each barrier. So the first thing I wanna ask is, somebody mentioned home health, and I'm not talking about just one patient, but home health in general, you know, that we have 2 home health companies, neither one takes Nevada Medicaid as a payer source. Hear that really well, neither option takes Nevada Medicaid, which means a younger disabled person, even if it's temporary or permanent disability, if they don't have Medicare or a different insurance, they only have Medicaid, cannot receive home health. So is there something in the state funding somewhere that can either supplement or make them take Medicaid, or is this any relation to Medicaid as a payer source?
That actually sounds like a provider shortage problem, which we do have statewide. We have,
Yeah,
even in Clark County, right? I'm sure shortages. I have insurance and I couldn't even get a great specialist in Las Vegas for what I need. So I understand it can be much harder in rural areas. And so I think that's something that the SILC actually has been working on, but we can definitely roll over into our next statement as well and continue those efforts, because it's a systemic problem, right, with the state, and we need to get legislators to make it easier for providers to want to come to our area and be in Nevada and serve our residents, right?
Okay, so I'm not really sure if there's anything available in Elko County or elsewhere in Nevada for homes to, so that person can stay in a home, be independent, live in a nursing home. some modifications to their house. I don't know if that's a resource. I know there's some, but.
Yeah, I think there are some, centers for independent living, we don't know like what specifically is in this area. But I'm sure. And, I think that it's probably a good idea for this, our council to really discuss, what we could do in that area as far as in all the different areas of savings. I think it is the same problem. Of not having enough housing, not having enough, this is what I heard in Carson City as well, as not only is there not enough permanent housing options for people with disabilities, but there's not enough temporary housing options for people with disabilities, and I think that's right here as well, right? So that might be something we need to address in our next statement.
For us, there's transportation, I know we went over that, and it needs to be addressed by the state of the problem. But for now, in the immediate situation, we don't have positions here, so we're going elsewhere, we're taking them to Salt Lake City. And because it doesn't have Medicaid, he only has Medicare, then NEAT program, because it covers people. Now they used to reimburse you for at least gas, to and from. But because he doesn't have a Medicaid, we no longer have that reimbursement, and most of his appointments are in Salt Lake City. That is something that we have not collected enough data on. So I think we need to, as a council, we need to collect more data on how many people are lacking transportation because of medical issues.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Excuse me. Excuse me.
So once they changed him from Medicaid, nothing in his profile changed.
Excuse me.
Because he's disabled and blind, they decided that he'd been on Medicaid for a long time, so they were going to take that away and switch him over to Medicare. Well, going on to Medicare eliminates a lot of the things and benefits that he had under Medicaid that they don't provide for. Transportation is one of them. What?
We're unable to hear
Oh,
what's going on.
that's fine. We have another interpreter in person and I'm going to repeat back for the record, so I apologize. I appreciate you guys being here. The fan is really loud. The room isn't the greatest acoustics. We're almost done.
No problem.
We don't need.
Okay, so let me make sure I'm understanding what we need to talk about with the internet statement. Is not just transportation in general, but specific Medicare issues with transportation in rural areas side. And it may, just clarify for me, who is it Medicaid that's saying you don't need Medicaid anymore because you Medicare?
Medicaid, after a while, he's been disabled. They said they moved him into a different program.
Healthcare does.
Yeah, which doesn't make any sense to me because nothing's changed. He has brain damage, he's blind, and he's deaf, and nothing has changed. But because he's had the Medicaid for so long, now they're moving him into a different program, certainly to the blind and disabled, took away his dental, took away transportation, because that just doesn't cover what is Medicaid.
May I ask, is he a senior?
No, it's not.
So he wouldn't qualify for the elderly waiver. He may qualify for the disability disabled waiver.
And I applied for a waiver, and that was turned down. But then there's a confusion too. I don't know if you guys have experienced this. I got a card for Medicaid in the mail. I'm like, well, because Medicaid is still
The secondary, right? But now it's a different kind of Medicaid. Now it's
that
not,
totally confused me.
it is.
So, because the girl down at the office said, well, you can't have Medicare and Medicaid.
Yeah.
But you can.
Yeah.
But she gave me the wrong information. She said he can't have both.
So I think
He has Medicaid,
there,
but it only covers his Medicare premiums.
yeah.
That's all.
Well, I thought it was like, you had, you were really that shape, but Medicare didn't, Medicaid.
In some states,
I was hoping that's the way it is, but
in some.
I know, I had to, why? Based on me, I just said, okay, you're on Medicaid and Medicare, whatever Medicare.
Well, and that could be because you're in a qualification or another qualification. But for everybody, it's different, depending on your income, depending on your family size, depending on a lot of different things, and it's really confusing. It's very confusing. And when the caseworkers themselves from Medicaid or from welfare don't even know what they're talking about, or they give you incorrect information, then it makes it that much harder to navigate.
yeah, I told her to stop working on this. I said, don't do anything. And then I went to somebody else and they said, yes, you can have both.
Yes.
Because she was gonna fix it. Which would have been a disaster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so I guess what the biggest thing I'm hearing about, the biggest problem I'm hearing in this whole thing, in this whole situation is that. Information is not being really accurate. And so we need the state to educate their employees on their programs. Because they are confused, and new people, or even people who've been around, but things change sometimes and they may not realize. I used to work in healthcare, and I've heard some really weird things. So, yeah, I understand what you're saying.
They made a good job. They changed them out. We went and they said, no, he doesn't have Medicaid anymore. And they put him.
You guys can go, I'm so sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
They put him in this SPIL program to the dead and blind. And the girl that I went to ask questions of, because I didn't know what's going on, the dentist said a lot of her clients have lost this benefit, special benefit, and you find out what's going on. She said, oh, he's working, well, he's making $2 over what he should make. So I'm gonna put him in another program. And I said, no, I said, for $2 more, he's not gonna work anymore. And then I'm so for people back to work. Well, I'm not gonna take the risk of them losing any more benefits.
What he can do is just work less hours. So if
You
you,
know, like working 4 hours, so I think 4 hours. These are the kind of things that creating an independent living plan with the center can really help you navigate the worker. Because they can help you with those things and help you with them. Yeah, I think that person tell me that what's the real deal, like, you know, what.
I will never go back to that person because they totally screwed that whole thing.
So I have to say, unfortunately, because there was a mix up in our communication, our town hall was approved by the deputy attorney general's office to be until 4:30. And not until, what was it, 5:30. So we actually have to put it short, but that's okay, because we're gonna come back in March. And we're, in the meantime, we're gonna be creating a state plan for independent living draft. And we'll have Zoom meetings, if you can, you're welcome to come and participate and give us your feedback there. Help us write the plan, help us figure out, you know, what's the best way forward. And once we have that draft, where we think we have it right, that's when we're gonna come back in person and get your feedback on what you think of that plan. So even if you didn't get a chance to speak up today, because I know not all we did, and you wanted to, and that's why you're here. And I really wish you could say, but we'll get in trouble if we do. So, we'll have more time to plan this better and make sure we have the time correct. Between the Center for Independent Living and us, to really help us organize this. So we'll do this again in March, and please check it, I have brochures and my business card over there, please pick that up, you contact me, you can go to our website, and our website will have the meetings posted, so that you can attend them if you want to, you can call in, you can join by Zoom.
And meanwhile, if you have problems that you're trying to work through, we certainly can give you our cards for our CIL. Yeah, we'll try to help facilitate whatever it's are.
We're gonna try, I got another lady here, they think she just graduated from high school. And her mom couldn't be here today, so her grandma was filling in. And 5 years from now, if mom doesn't be there, I mean, she has brothers and sisters, but she's capable of doing her laundry, cooking her own food. I mean,
Independent.
right, okay, but I was told independent living. They had housing for it, but there were several young ladies who lived in independent living. I know every single one of them, and they're not independent. You understand the thing with assisted living? They're, yeah,
Not the same thing.
right.
This are not independent.
We want to take everyone to schools and break down the barriers so that they can live in the most independent way that they want to, in the most free environment that they can. Now, whether if that person is severely disabled and the best they can do is work home, we're not gonna, say, no, that's not independent, we're gonna help with that too. But we want the person to decide for themselves. So you would decide for yourself what you want to do, right?
Yeah. And
Which is actually,
you have our card. So you can call me, we're gonna sit down, right? Yeah, okay. Right now, she just, her grandma said, mom, her kid are going from place to place to go to the job, to the college, that they have help for young ladies like her that graduate very high up. They can help her get one class. Who cares?
so what we have is a disability resource center and she can start there. And also, our council is starting a youth action council. And we're going to be hiring a youth outreach specialist to run that council very soon. But if, I don't know if you're looking for a full job, but it's really important. Our council really feels it's important that the youth have their voice and they empower themselves, and we help them with that, and we give them the tools they need to do that. So because you're the future, right? So right, we have different needs to build up.
I think she is, take notes. Yeah, she's very active.
So we would love to have as many youth, young people involved in that in any way they're going to be as possible. And if you just take my information, I can send you the information later, I can email it to you and call you, whatever it needs to happen.
That would be long, I'm just grappling, I'm talking down. But I know there's young ladies in towns.
So is there anybody else who wants to add anything right quick? Like any needs that they see in the community?
Again, I apologize for the confusion on time.
Anybody else?
Transportation and one.
Just say, so Marianne and Council by Valley Unlimited, we deal, a lot of our clients have disabilities. I would reiterate, transportation in rural areas, very, very difficult, so getting that, and especially, yes, not having Medicaid or being able to maneuver through that. Very big deal.
Thank you.
Medical transportation. That's something.
Transportation and medical transportation.
That's something we will be researching for this area.
Yeah.
Because RFP no longer doing it anymore.
So this is, it's maybe
You should get someone with a car and they should become an Uber driver. And then you can take it that way.
And by participating in our surveys, by just responding to our, you know, to our questions about what's needed, then you're feeling positive and as, you know, and we can take your voice. And because you less about me, you can talk about you can talk to your manager or whatever.
I think it's like, I know you mentioned housing or whatever, I think it was state housing. But we, do have a program, maybe not so much for independent living, but for, to make houses safer. You know, if somebody needs to be more independent in their home, for their handicap ramp, to the bathroom remodel, or whatever. We do have a program for low income, for very low income families, and I have flyers, so we can talk about that, but awesome. Networking is good, so getting the word out is good for that.
I'll put your flyers on that. We can put your information on our resources on that.
That would be great, yeah, we're statewide, we're actually nationwide, but I don't really know that.
A lot of stuff on our website, so please check out our website. And please get involved in any of our meetings, all the public's welcome at any time. If it's a closed meeting, you're still allowed to give public comment. So we invite you anytime you want to. And it's usually urgent, so we have to move you out here, we're not always up here, but we're gonna do better at that.
Yes.
So thank you so much, everybody, for coming and for giving me.
And look, always look, and look for us to happen again in March.
Are you? Oh,
If you ask me, it was a bad deed.
Thank you,
Patty.
You can tell, I